Good morning, everybody. It's Friday and it's August 20th, and I'm happy to be here with you for Fridays with Father for a short while. Jonah is here on the floor. Hopefully, you'll get to say hello before we finish today. It's a very stuffy, warm day outside, not pleasant at all, so it's better to be inside if you can. Apart from that, I've just come from a funeral. We had a funeral this morning for Thomas Kappa, a man of 72, who died of cancer, and in some ways it was quite tragic too, because, when he was, he had 3 children and he's already lost, no, he had 4 children. He lost 2 of them already some years ago when they were much younger. So there's been quite a lot of tragedy in his life, and so now he died of cancer. So it was fairly sad, But interestingly enough, he died on the Feast of the Assumption on August the 15th. And so during the celebration today, during the homily, I took the opportunity to talk briefly about the Feast of the Assumption, and I was telling them about a lovely church in the Holy Land in Jerusalem. And this church is built on the spot where Mary was believed to have been assumed into heaven. As Catholics, we believe that when, Mary finished her earthly life here, she was taken up into heaven. She wasn't placed in a tomb, there's no grave for her, because her role is so important and this place so special with Jesus, that she was received directly, into heaven, and this church is built on the spot where that took place. But what I wanted to say to these people today, at the funeral, was that the name of that church is beautiful. It's called, the Church of Dormition, or the Abbey of Dormition. Dormition meaning, falling asleep. It's the place where we say that Mary fell asleep. Where she finished her earthly life. And we often talk about death as like passing away and stuff like that, which doesn't really say that much, but when you think about dormition. So I use that as an example to, in some ways, help us think about how we understand, death really. And in some ways, the example of Mary and the Dormition Abbey can help us to think of our own kind of exit from this world as a falling asleep, really, when our earthly life is over. And that place in Jerusalem, that abbey in the nave, has got a beautiful, like marble and alabaster kind of statue of Mary just lying down asleep. Now, most of the statues you see of Mary, she's standing up, like this one here behind me, and but this is the only one I've seen where she's actually just lying there asleep, and you can pray around that statue, and it's a very beautiful place to visit. I highly recommend it if you've never been. But Dormition being the point that I wanted to bring to the people at the funeral today, because, their loved one, Thomas, he died on the day when Mary was assumed, when she had her dormition. And in some ways, in the same way that there's a special place for Mary in heaven, so it tells us all too there's a special place for each one of us. We just have to believe in Jesus and to follow Jesus, who is the way, the truth, and the life. So anyway, that was in some ways my homily in a nutshell, but it kind of made the point for me, as I wanted to mention to you today, the Assumption, because this past Sunday was the Feast of the Assumption, and I was quite excited to celebrate it here. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to me that we were able to celebrate and honor the Blessed Virgin Mary this past Sunday here at Church of the Holy Spirit. Very often, you see, this feast is celebrated, during the weekdays, and even if it might be, and it's not always, a holy day of obligation, not many people go. So, it's not like the whole community of the church gathers to celebrate it, but we did. And it was nice, and we sang nice songs and things like that. But it just it just was a nice thing because Mary has always been such an important part of my life, and still is an important part of my life. And you know, she embodies Jesus. She brings Jesus to us. And the critics, or especially like around the time of the Protestant Reformation, the Protestants were critical of Catholics because they felt that that we honoured Mary too much. It's like we almost like worshipped her like a god. And of course, well, actually, we don't. And Catholics don't worship Mary. We venerate Mary in the same way we venerate the saints. But what we do most of all is recognize that she has a very important part to play in our salvation, in our saving, and continues to have an important role even to this very moment. So we access Jesus. We get to Jesus through Mary because she brings Jesus to us in a special way. So I just wanted to mention the Assumption today so that that we don't take for granted, I think, what is part of very much our Catholic culture. And whether you consider yourself to have a devotion to Mary or not, it's part of our Catholic life and part of our Catholic belief. And in different ways, it's kind of like penetrated culture around the world and even locally. I know I can drive around the streets here of Schaumburg, and I can count many different homes that in their front yard, in their front garden, they will have a statue of the Blessed Virgin Mary. Now, they may be Catholic or not Catholic, I don't know, but there's something going on there, right? They recognize this holy woman, and their lives in some ways are being punctuated by the holiness of this woman in her life because she brings Jesus to them, So I like to think of, our devotion to Mary in that way, that she helps us to punctuate our lives with holiness. And I think the more we can do that, the more we can have our lives, filled with grace, filled with blessings, filled with holiness, the better we are for them. So you've probably got statues of Mary in your own home, or you've got one in your garden or whatever. But she is present throughout the world. And I always like to tell this little tale that when I was I did a lot of my formation in my early days of my youth in Spain. A very important part of the world for me because it helped me to be the person that I am now. But they always spoke about the feast of the Assumption, the 15th of August. They used to say it was La Virgen de Agosto, the Virgin of August, which always tickled me, always made me laugh. And they did that, intentionally, because they found it funny too. But what they meant was, that there's a Virgin for August in the same way there's one for July and June and May and April and March. There are so many feasts of the Blessed Virgin Mary that we just refer to the Feast of the Assumption as the Virgin of August. That was kind of Spanish dry humor, really, which wasn't lost on me, and it isn't today. But what it said to me was, that it's true. There are so many feasts and celebrations in honor of the Blessed Virgin Mary throughout the world under different manifestations, different appearances, or different artistic expression, that it just shows again just how much Mary is part of the culture of our world, whether you're Catholic or not, believing or not. So, we have the Feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe, we have the Feast of Our Lady of Perpetual Succor, Our Lady of Mount Carmel, the Visitation of the Blessed Virgin Mary, the birthday of the Blessed Virgin Mary, etc., and so on and so forth. So the fact that they would say, that the Assumption was the Virgin of August, kind of just indicates, there's just one of many. But this one, particularly the Assumption, was very important to us here this past week. So there you are. I just wanted to mention the Blessed Virgin Mary, and in doing so, I wanted to show you my rosary. Actually, I got a set of rosary beads here, which I'm very fond of, and I've had for quite some years now. And And for some time, when I was younger, I kind of went off the rosary. Really, I don't know what it was. I didn't think it was maybe cool enough, but but anyway, there was a specific time, I think, maybe when I got back into this, and I think I already told you about that. But I want to tell you about this rosary more importantly. That when I was a young priest and newly ordained, I had a lot of physical issues. I was ill for quite a lot of time, and I had to go for surgery to try and correct it. And I was in and out of hospital, and I was unwell, and it took me a long time to get over it. But anyway, I got a lot better thanks to the prayers of my parishioners and my family and friends. But when I was packing up my stuff in the hospital to go and stay with my parents in their home, I came across this rosary beads. And I'd never seen it before in my life. And I was concerned in case I'd stolen it from another patient or something, but it seemed unlikely. But these were in my belongings, and I don't know to this day where they came from. And I think it's what they call a Dominican crucifix rosary because of its size, I think, but and some of the medals on it. But so I took it home with me. I thought to myself, well, I guess somebody wanted me to have this, And more importantly, I thought to myself, well, probably somebody wants me to use this. So, when I do pray using this rosary, I always pray for the person who put it there amongst my things. And I assume that, Jesus wanted me to have these rosary beads so I could use them to pray. And so this is probably like my go-to rosary, although I do have many more, And what was I going to say about the rosary, is that... it's a prayer in which we do address the Blessed Virgin Mary, in her words of the Hail Mary. But what it really is, you see, it's a reflection on our mysteries, the mysteries of our faith, the mysteries of Jesus. So that as we pray to the Virgin, so we're meditating and reflecting on all the stuff that Jesus did for us and continues to do for us. And so it's a great way of reflecting on our own faith and the nature of our faith. Which is very much a big part of our life. So I do recommend the rosary. I'm sure you've got one. Maybe you've got one in your glove compartment in your car, or you've got one underneath your bed, or maybe you carry one in your pocket, or maybe you're just very fervent in praying it every day. But it's worth, it's worth attempting because the benefits are multiple. And what they do is they help us to punctuate our life with God's grace. They bring grace into our lives. They give us little moments in our life where they're punctuated with grace, punctuated with Jesus, and Mary brings that to us through devotion to the Rosary. So there you are. I just wanted to mention that. And while I was saying that about sort of gracing our lives in that way, I wanted to mention today's feast, which August the 20th, which is a feast in honor of Saint Bernard of Clairvaux, who was a French monk in the 12th century, and he came from a very wealthy family, but he wanted to give up his life and join this new and austere order of monks called the Cistercians, which he did, and he was very good and very holy and very prayerful, and he went on to found an important abbey in France called Clairvaux. It's now a ruined abbey, so there's not much left of it, but it was important at the time for what he did there. But Bernard of Clairvaux, he wrote the prayer, which I've referred to you before, called the Memorare, the one that says, "Remember, O most loving Virgin Mary." That one. It was written by St. Bernard. So I'm talking to you about the Blessed Virgin Mary today on the Feast of St. Bernard, who wrote that beautiful prayer. A great prayer. If you've got a special intention, pray it. So that's the one thing that he said. Now the other thing that he said, which makes me, which connects me to what I was saying earlier about, making your lives a little bit holier, by doing things to punctuate them with grace, because he said this other famous saying, which you're all aware of, and it's very common, but it was him that wrote it or said it. He said, "The road to hell is paved with good intentions." Yeah, it was him. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. Now, we say that, at least I say it, or I've heard other people say it, in regular speech, but it was St. Bernard who said that first of all, And isn't that the case, that it's good intentions, where do they get us? Nowhere, Not that I want to talk to you about hell today, I want to talk to you about heavenly things, but our prayers directed towards Mary or to the saints, which lead us heavenwards towards Jesus, they in some ways help us avoid, the path of good intentions, We need to actually have good actions as much as intentions. And having something like the habit or the custom of praying the Rosary is a good action, It's a good action. Anything which helps us to connect with Jesus, connect with God in prayer, has to be a good thing, all right? So next time you hear that expression, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, know it was St. Bernard of Clairvaux. It was him that thought that. Anyway, and said it. So anyway, I will love you and leave you now because I got to go and do other things. I've got a wedding rehearsal this evening and a wedding tomorrow. And then tomorrow evening, just before I leave, tomorrow evening we're hoping to have the drive-in picnic. And I know some people are concerned about the weather because it says rain. Well, we're just going to bank and assume and trust there will be no rain. But if it does rain and it looks like it's not going to work, then somebody will post something on the internet or on Facebook to let you know that it's cancelled, But we're hoping and praying, that it won't. So we're going to say a special prayer to St. Bernard of Clairvaux and to the Blessed Virgin Mary today, so that our picnic, which was a rescheduled picnic from June because of rain, actually goes ahead tomorrow. And if you come tomorrow, you can bring your own drink, you bring your own food, but also we will be selling Mexican tacos and other stuff. The youth group are making food and selling it so we can help them go to their conference in Indianapolis in November. Okay, so keep your ears open for news about the drive-in picnic. And if you don't hear anything, just assume it's going to go forward tomorrow after the 5 o'clock Mass. And just before I close, as you can see, I'm sat here and behind me are all these statues, And you're probably thinking, Father Jeremy's got a thing about statues, he must be collecting them. Well, I'm not, actually. What it is people just give them to me. So I receive them gratefully because they are beautiful things. And again, they help to direct our hearts and our minds heavenward to Jesus. So people have given me these statues to take care of or to use or whatever. And they're here right now in my office until I find another home for them. Okay, but all of these things like art, sacred art, and all these different kind of statues, they help to orient our lives. And as I say, they help us to punctuate our lives with grace. So there you go. So if you've got a statue in your life, know that you're punctuating your life with grace. As I say goodbye to you, I'm just going to say, Jonah, you want to come say hello? Come say hello. Okay. He is asleep. Yesterday we went to the groomers, and so he's still tired, aren't you? You're still tired, yeah. So anyway, we're going to say goodbye for now, and we will see you in church on Saturday or Sunday. And in the meantime, be joyful. Keep the faith. Bye-bye.